Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Along Came a Writer Network. Opinions expressed in our shows do not necessarily reflect those of the network. Welcome to the Along Came a Writer Show. I'm Linda Costa, your host, and today is going to be all about romance. I'm interviewing two romance authors, Jennie Goutet and Shelley Shepard Gray. And let's see, I play the romantic opener music in honor of our authors today. I'm going to read you a little bio on my first guest, which is Jennie Goutet. I'm pronouncing your name right, Jennie?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, great. So Jennie Goutet is an American-born Anglophile who lives with her French husband and their 3 children in a small town outside of Paris. Her imagination resides in Regency England, where her best-selling proper Regency romances are set. She is also author of the award-winning memoir, Stars Upside Down, 2 contemporary romances, and a smattering of other published works. A Christian, a cook, and an inveterate klutz. Jennie sometimes writes about faith, food, and life, even the clumsy moments, on her blog, aladyinfrance.com. Check that out. You can learn more about Jennie and her books and sign up for her newsletter on her author website, jenniegoutet.com. And check out her social, too. Why not? Welcome to the show, Jennie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for calling from all the way, you're outside of Paris. Gosh.
Yes, I am. And there might be a slight delay, so I hope that will not bother the listeners.
Well, as long as my computer is like running hot, I think I need a new computer. I've loaded it with too many books in work in progress.
Yes, that's a problem.
So do you, I just need to ask, this question is silly and you probably get it a lot, but do you watch Emily in Paris?
I have seen a few episodes, and that probably would have appealed to me around the same age, but I live my own story. And so I'm a suburban mom, actually, not suburban in Paris, but still, I'm a suburban mom. So
hers is a little too exciting, but it's kind of fun,
Yeah.
And unreal.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Well, to me, it's funny because when I come back, when we go to visit the States to see my parents and everything, when I come back, I'm like, I'm home. So it does feel normal. It feels like home to me. And, oh no, there's somebody calling me. I don't know if it's making the sound. Sorry,
always.
Yeah. And I don't really know. Okay, send to voicemail. Okay, so it's good. Yes, so that was one of my French mom friends that was calling me.
I thought maybe, it was your agent calling with a new contract and you ignored it.
Oh, yes, I should have said that.
Okay, so let's ask first, how did you wind up in Paris or outside of Paris?
Well, I had a dream when I was 18 that I was going to marry a French man, and I decided I was going to set out and look for him, and so I went to, I did a study abroad when I was in college, and that bore no fruit. And then when I was, out of college, I moved to Taiwan so that I could teach English there. And then I moved to New York City. I was kind of a little bit of a bohemian, and I met a French guy there, and we started dating, and I was like, this is it. And it wasn't it because God had a better plan. I actually became a Christian, and I went back to New York City, and my French husband, who was an atheist, became a Christian, and right at the same time, actually. And 3 years later, we started dating, and that's why I'm here. It's because of him.
Wow. What, and his family must be from around there.
Yes, they are. He was born in Paris, and they live, in the suburbs of Paris, but not necessarily right next to us. But it's really great to be near them.
That's awesome. Okay, I love hearing how people wind up where they wind up.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how did you come to start writing Regency romance?
Okay. Well, I started writing, period, because of my memoir. That was the thing that kind of launched me into writing more than just a blog. And the memoir is about faith and grief and, travel and all that kind of thing. And when I was done writing that, I said, well, I want to keep writing longer books, but my story's already told. I'm going to have to make up some stories. And I had just discovered from one of my local British friends, Georgette Hare, and I just thought she was absolutely brilliant. I would read her books, and I was just like, my heart was filled with delight when I read them. And I've reread them all so many times. And she kind of created the Regency genre. Jane Austen lived the Regency genre, but Georgette Hare was the one who kind of created it because she lived last century, and she's the one who, brought it all back to life and everything. And so that's why I started writing Regency. I wrote two contemporaries because I was a little afraid of taking the plunge, and then I was like, no, I'm sure I can do it. I'm going to do it. And so I started writing it. I haven't looked back.
Now, your latest one is the sport of matchmaking, which I'm going to ask you, just to give us a rundown on. But do I pronounce your series the Clavering Chronicle series?
Yeah, usually Clavering Chronicles.
Okay, Clavering Chronicles. Yeah. So this is the third book. Is that the final book in the series?
It's technically the final book. Sometimes I get, could you please write, so-and-so story, and I'm a little tempted, but, it's technically the last one, and I have moved on to another series, which I'm writing now, but, so technically it's the last one. But each book, I should mention that each book can be read without having read the other ones. I mean, it's kind of nice to read them in order because you get to build, you kind of get the background of everybody, but it's not necessary.
So your first book in the series, so people can look these up, was From Grace, and that was your debut book in the series. And the second one was Philippa Holds Court.
Yes.
Yes.
Perhaps an unfortunate title because nobody understands what it means and they can't pronounce Philippa. But I thought, let me do a play on words because I wrote it about the hero serves in Parliament. And I got a lot of inspiration from the movie Amazing Grace, which is about the slave trade, and that occurred right before the Regency period. And so I thought, okay, court, like court of law, but then you have a court of suitors as well. And so Holt's Court, I was thinking, I'm doing a little play on words, but nobody knows.
That's what I thought of the suitors.
Yes.
Well, how much research do you have to put into these? I mean, because you have to get everything right, or people call you on it. The readers call you on it.
Yes. One thing I think that has been in my favor is that I grew up reading the classics. So the kind of the old language does come easily to me in a lot of ways, not perfectly. I'm not British, and I didn't live in that century, so I'm not a genius, but it sounds natural to me, and so I think that helps. But I do research everything. I research whether a word was in usage. I research, like, if they're if they're in the country house, do they dine at 6 or do they dine later? Like everything I research, and I spend a lot of time on research because I do want to get it right. Yeah.
Do you do the spreadsheet thing to keep up with it? I mean, I hate spreadsheets.
Yeah. I'm kind of like torn between a plotter and a pantser. I'm not sure if the listeners know the distinction, but plotter is somebody who, has every detail worked out before they even, put their fingers to the keyboard. And then a pantser is the one that just starts and then the characters run off and you have to kind of type and catch up. Well, I'm somewhere between the two because if I try to plot, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what to write, what's going to come next. And if I try to pants it, I will, begin writing, and then I will think, oh, whoa, wait a second, where is my book going? There's nothing, it's going off the rails. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know why spreadsheet. So I'm not that organized, which you could probably tell from talking to me. I'm not quite that organized.
Well, I'm both too. I'm what I call a hybrid in that, I kind of just plot out the beginning, and then you kind of have to let your characters tell you what's next sometimes.
Yeah,
it sounds
true.
crazy.
And that does happen, and it's fun when you get something good and you get a good scene, and you're like, yes, they're being authentic. Then it's very exciting.
Yes. So let's see. In your latest book, The Sport of Matchmaking, I can read this little section for people. George Clavering is much too young to even think of marriage, even though his siblings are all happily married. This is fine for them, but not him, not right now. That is why Lady Alice St. Clair is the perfect gaming partner. She has no desire to get married either. So when this unlikely pair come together for a friendly bet regarding matchmaking their friends, neither one thinks much of it until they do. Will George be able to stay immune to Lady Alice's charms? Will Lady Alice be able to keep her resolve to remain unmarried? Ooh, leave a question there. Now I want to know.
Well, I'll give you a hint. Since it's a romance,
this is a romance book.
But how it comes about, that's what makes it fun.
That's the exciting part.
Yes.
And so, of course, do you throw elements into your characters that make them vulnerable and human? I know they have to be dashing and they have to be, beautiful, lovely, but there are the frailties that we all have. How do you weave those in?
Yeah, I do actually quite a bit. For instance, with Lady Alice, she is afraid to get married because in those days she's not really valued at home. And in those days, women's money, their inheritance, their dowry, their settlement, whatever they have goes directly into the hands of the husband. And so she's thinking, well, if I get married, not only will he have my money, but I probably won't be valued either, because she doesn't really think very highly of love. She doesn't think it exists. And so that's something. And then when she starts to give her heart, something happens to show her that she was right not to trust, and so that's something she has to work through, and George, he's kind of a playboy in the innocent sense. He's not a rake, as they would call it in Regency terms. Not really. He's but he does not want to settle down. He's young. He wants to play. He wants to have fun. But, he's got an estate that needs seeing to, so he has to kind of grow up, and he's starting to, that's kind of forced upon him, like he needs to grow up. And so, you feel the groan of like, I have to take care of this because no one else is going to do it for me. And then when he starts to think about getting a wife, it's a little flippant at first, like, oh yeah, I suppose it's the right thing to do, and I'm of age and everything. Then it kind of turns into, yeah, but what if it were her? But no, it needs to be her, but I can't because she doesn't want to. And so I love adding those elements where you just feel it with them, Yeah,
because they've had a burden to marry and produce a male heir in that time, so they generally married younger. We do in this modern age, and then for a woman, you're right, they really didn't have many choices.
Right, right. And, there's a scene where her mother, and that's very frustrating for Alice because her mother does not listen to her. She doesn't believe her when she says she doesn't want to get married. And, and her mother basically lays it on the line. And she said, you will have no future if you don't get married. So basically, you need to. And that's just heartbreaking for someone to see their desire, their independence just ripped away from them. And this was a reality for a lot of people. For this era.
Yes. Even for men who really weren't ready at that age to get married, but they had to because it was expected.
Yeah, exactly. Mm.
Now, I wanted to ask you too. Well, we talked a little bit about doing the historical research, but what about like the dresses and the costumes? The guys had interesting things they wore, but the dresses. That's what I think.
The fun part.
Yeah, and all the things they had to wear underneath. That's just monumental.
Yes, although it was much less during the Regency period. In fact, what is so exciting, I think most listeners will connect with, Pride and Prejudice, the very simple dresses that had kind of a square neckline, an empire waist, and very form-fitting slim, which were inspired by the Empress Josephine, the wife of Napoleon. But it was a big change from the Georgian era, which was the Marie Antoinette and the King Louis era with the big wigs and the big petticoats, and there was a lot of stuff under there. But with the Regency dresses, they would just have a simple shift. And it was quite thin, actually. And in some cases, for the more daring young ladies, it was actually even see-through. So they didn't wear very much, but yeah, exactly. It was not looked well upon, but, for some of the ones that wanted to be a little risque and everything. But that's what's so neat. One of the many things that's so neat about the Regency era is, before, like these huge dresses, and then afterwards, you think of the Victorian period, we're back in the petticoats, we've got the things going up to the neck and everything. But in this little snapshot of about 20 years, their dresses were like Greek, the Grecian simple dresses, and I just think that's cool.
It's still more than we wear.
Yeah,
it's still more than modern women wear. But yes, now if you happen to be not a slim figured, then that clothing would not be for you. You would not shine in that era.
Not at all. In fact, I would not shine in that era. I like the cakes too much, so that would be a problem. But but it's true that and I think that is fun. Like that's part of the way that we as authors we get to dream. Make your characters these like slender little waists for the most part, and then you can imagine them perfectly fitting into the dresses without any problem. That's fiction.
Can you name like one of your favorite secondary characters in the book?
In the sport of matchmaking? Well, in this one, okay, so there are kind of two love stories, and a lot of times I do that, not always on purpose, but just because it springs up that way. And there is a secondary love story in this one. There's Mr. Duckworth and Miss Chauncey. And, Mr. Duckworth goes by Duck, by his friends call him Duck. And I kind of like Miss Chauncey because she doesn't have the breeding that Lady Alice has. She has the money, but she doesn't have the breeding. Her mom got their money through trade mainly, and but she is not one to try to cultivate a relationship with Lady Alice to try to better her position. In fact, she really wants nothing to do with the whole high society and everything like that. And so Lady Alice actually likes her and respects her. I mean, her story is told because she's got her own romantic story with Duck, but that was a really fun character to write because she didn't mind telling Lady Alice to bug off when she was getting too personal and things like that most people wouldn't dare do.
So don't you enjoy your secondary characters because you can kind of take them in different directions or just kind of feel a little more footloose with them?
Yeah, I do. In my very first Regency novel that we might have a connection problem. Hold on. In my very first Regency novel that I wrote, it was called A Regrettable Proposal, a completely different series. And there was a secondary love story between Lydia and Fitz. And when I wrote the third book, they featured a big part of it because it's set in Waterloo, and he was a soldier, an officer stationed in Brussels during that time. And so it was so fun to bring them back and just give them a bigger part, and a lot of people really did love their love story too. It's like you get 2 for 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's romance. Well, I mean, some people get engaged at other people's weddings.
Yeah, I know.
Romance is contagious.
It is, and also you kind of think, well, you want everyone to, you want everyone to have their own love story, and so if you have more than one couple finding love, then that's great. It just shows there's more than enough to go around.
Having a happy ending. I mean, happy endings are important to romance. I mean, love stories. I think I get very disappointed if there isn't a happy ending. I mean, I can handle a questionable ending, like Gone with the Wind ending. Like did she get it back? Well, the character, she probably did. But I can't. It's just hard, for readers of romance.
Ones that don't have a happy ending are not even technically a romance. They're maybe more like women's fiction or something, as I'm sure you know. But the happy ending for me, I think it's also there's a spiritual component to it because we all want and expect our happy ending, our eternal happy ending. And so, it's kind of a sign of things to come. It's just getting like reassured that, that we're loved, that there's good things, that we have our place. And I think all of those are really important elements, and that's why romance is such a hot market, because people are looking for that.
Well, one thing I noticed about, say Pride and Prejudice, the conversations are much more clipped and biting and and just remarkable than our modern day conversation. Can you comment on that, or like what it's like writing that? It was really an art.
Yes, it's so much fun. That's just the most fun. Like when I get those scenes where I can really let the characters shine and have their wit go back and forth is just so much fun. Like there's there's a scene in Philippa Holt's court where she's pouring tea for him, and she asks him how many sugars he wants, and he says 3. And she said, "So many? Is it to balance out your bitter nature?" And just this, and then just these play by plays between the two of them, and then he also gets her back, and it's just fun. I think that's my favorite part of writing Regency, actually.
Yeah, because you think, oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Yes. And you can do all those things that you cannot do in real life. Like I don't have a quick tongue, I'm not able to, think of the right thing at the right moment and everything. So it's really fun to be able to do that in a book.
and they said it all without one word, or like we say in Texas, cuss word.
Yes, exactly.
Modern day conversations. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Just to be able to say it with your wit and without using, salty language.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're running out of time. We have 5 minutes left. Can you tell us a little about life in Paris and how being there? Like, are you ruined for French bread now? I mean, because if you go back to the States, I'm from New Orleans, so we have our version of French bread, which is really, really good. But but are you ruined for it when you try it here?
Well, I would be, except that I'm gluten intolerant, which is just the saddest thing, isn't it? I don't drink alcohol, and I'm gluten intolerant. It is such a sad thing. But at least I'm not lactose intolerant.
But you can have some pastries and things like that, I'm sure.
No, I can't. I need to make my own. No, I have celiac disease. I really can't eat it. So I have to make my own. And there are a few restaurants that do serve gluten-free, special gluten-free pastries, which is so great when you can get that, or gluten-free restaurants.
No.
It's still good. It's still good. In any case, it's my life. I have to deal with it. I don't have a choice. So I just deal with it. But I would say that, here's just a little snapshot. One thing I love is I love seeing the kids in like elementary school, junior high, preschool, high school. The boys will come up and shake each other's hands when they come to school. That's how they greet each other. And I just think that is the cutest thing, and the girls, they don't usually do it when they're in elementary school, but by the time they're in junior high, they give the 2 kisses on the cheek when they go to school, and I just think that's so cute, and they've got other little like manners and things like that. There's things like, when you go into a doctor's office or an elevator or a shop, a small shop, you have to say hello. And that's like, we're allergic to that in the States. Like you get on an elevator, someone says hello, and you're ready to get off the elevator, but it's not the same in France. You have to say hello to everybody. And when you get off the elevator, you have to say have a good day, and so there's just like these little, courteous things, and I love that.
Yeah. But life's little courtesies that are really old school here for some people, but not so much for, newer generations.
Yeah, that's right. So I love that. And it's beautiful, of course, architecture. It's so gorgeous.
Museums.
Museums. Yeah, and my husband comes from an old family, so we have a lot of really old things in our house. And I have in my file cabinet next to me, I have papers from the 18th century.
Oh, wow.
I know. Cool, right? It's like,
oh,
so
yeah.
Cool. And so we've got old stuff, and I just love it. I just love it here.
Well, and my final question, and we've got 2 minutes left, is how's your French? I mean, is it coming along? Did you know any before?
I did know before I went. I did know it, and my French is fluent. You can still hear that I have an accent and everything. You can tell I'm not a native speaker, but I can listen to the radio. I can talk in any situation about any topic with anybody and not have a problem with it. So fortunately, and now in French too. I got French. I have double nationality. So, I'm fully rooted here.
That's wonderful. And I just want to encourage our listeners today to go and check out A Lady in France, your blog. And I'm sure that's so much fun. And to check out your books, your latest one, The Sport of Matchmaking, and the whole Clavering Chronicles series, and your other books as well. And check out your social media, your Soch. Check out Jennie Jennie Goutet, thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, and I look forward to maybe talking to you again in the future. It's been
That
so
would
much
be
fun.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night. Well, good
Thank
night for me. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And now we're going to move on to our next guest today, Shelley Shepard Gray, but I'm going to play a little music in between. Hi, Shelley. Shelley Shepard Gray is here, and I'm just going to read a little bit about her. I see she's online. Shelley Shepard Gray is the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of numerous romantic fiction series and mystery novels, including the Seasons of Sugar Creek series, the Sisters of the Heart series, the Families of Honor series, and more. She's a recipient of the Book Reviewer Choice Award, and she has written more than 80 novels translated into multiple languages. Shelley, thank you for being on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda. I'm delighted to be joining y'all.
Well, we're going to talk about your latest book, Edgewater Road. But before that, I thought we would just talk about maybe how you got started in writing, because everybody likes to hear that.
Oh, sure. No, I'm delighted to talk about anything. I started writing 20 years ago. I used to be an elementary school teacher, and one day I used to always read books during my lunch break, and one day I didn't have a book, and I finally just kind of thought, maybe I'll see if I can just make something up. And that really instilled my love for writing. I never thought I'd be published, but I did end up moving to Ohio, and I joining some writing groups, and I sold my third manuscript.
That's exciting. What about when you got your first contract? Everybody remembers that day. When and where was that, or how did that happen?
It was a surprise to me. I didn't have an agent at the time, and I guess, it's funny, back then I think I was so hopeful. Like, I just thought, if I just keep trying, maybe it really will happen. And I did. I got a call from the editor. It was for a little romance for a library publisher called Avalon Books. Mm-hmm. She called and she said, you know what, we want to take a chance on you. And I, of course, was so excited and stunned. And then she said, and guess what, you've got quite a bit of work to do to make this book ready to go. And, that's kind of like, all right, so this is now the reality instead of the fantasy of getting a book publishing contract. Is like, there's also a lot of hard work on both sides of it. But it was wonderful. Looking back, it was a real blessing. There have been some other times when I worked for years to get a contract. When the first time I sold a book to Harlequin, I just couldn't even believe it. It took me 3 years to get in with them, and I burst into tears. My husband thought someone had died. So they're all. I guess the moral is it's all wonderful. It's just when you have a goal, no matter what it is, and you work hard and you achieve it, I think there's few things like that sense of satisfaction.
I agree. Every author, including myself, we all remember getting that first contract, but then you also remember landmark ones. It's like, I never thought this would happen, or I never thought this would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's, and then before you get published, you think, oh, if I could only get one book published, I'd be so happy. But then you live from publication to publication. You think, oh, will I ever get published again? And so there's a lot to it, a lot of victories.
No, I agree, and people kind of laugh at me now because I've actually ended up publishing over 100 books, and I think I'm at 108 now, and I'm still always sure that I'm not going to get another book contract or it's something's going to happen. And I think I know I'm not the only author to feel that way.
Oh, you're not.
I think, and honestly, I keep putting it back to any job. If you care, you want to do well, and if and you want it to continue. And I love writing. I care about my books. I love the fact that I get to stay home and make things up. And it would be heartbreaking for me if it was over. So I'm very thankful.
We when I read your bio about your books being translated into multiple languages, I wanted to ask, is there any one of those books where the translation got a little funky? And, sometimes it can be funny,
I don't know. I honestly, I couldn't tell you exactly how even the titles relate to. I know one of my books for Avon, and it was an Amish book, which I was surprised turned into was translated into Japan and Japanese, and so I know that they worked a lot with the covers, and I think they had to go quite a bit to convey to a typical person in Japan exactly who these people are running around Ohio in buggies and horses, but it seemed to go over just fine.
Well, yeah, people are fascinated, I think, all over the world with the Amish culture. So that's cool. I mean, I was just wondering, sometimes writers have funny stories about how their book translated in just a weird way.
I bet you do. I mean, I know you've got lots of books in all different languages. I don't have a good story for that one.
Well, keep your eye out. You never know. But I wanted to read the blurb for your book, Edgewater Road, and then maybe we could talk a little bit about it.
Sure.
Lincoln Bennett likes to keep his head down and get his work done. He's been to prison, and he knows that a lot of folks don't take kindly to a man with that kind of history. Plus, he's busy helping other ex-cons get back on their feet. But when he meets Jennifer, he can't help but feel an instant attraction. Will she be able to look past his unsavory history? Will she be able to accept the men he's working so hard to help? While Jennifer gets to know Lincoln and his friends, she also begins to unravel her grandmother's story, putting together the pieces from scraps of memories and things she finds in her new home. She soon discovers that Ginny Smiley harbored some dark secrets on Edgewater Road, and that those secrets include both Lincoln and her own absent father. Is learning the truth a heartache it could bring. As the weeks pass, and she and Lincoln become closer, Jennifer learns there's a lot to uncover in Ross County. Wonderful friendships, darling towns, and more than one secret that might be better left buried. Okay, the thing I look for, that's great. In a romance book, my theory is that every romance book contains elements of mystery and suspense, too, and conflict and all that, because if you don't have that, it's not much. There isn't much to do.
I agree. Yeah.
So you've got mystery and suspense in this.
I did. This is my seventh book with Blackstone, and the first two series I wrote for them were straight romances, which was just delightful. But I wanted to take a chance, and honestly, I had written this book, almost all of it, way before we ever sold it. I ended up just pretty much writing it for myself, and it just was all a little bit different, and it did. It has a nice touch of romantic suspense. The whole series does, and I enjoy reading romantic suspense. I enjoy reading mysteries. So this was something that I'm fond about, and so I was thrilled to add those elements in this romance.
Tell us a little bit about your writing process. Do you write a certain amount of words a day, like say 2,000? A lot of people like to write 2,000 to 5,000, or do you just write in big spurts?
No, I write every day. I usually I'm on deadline, and so I'm always frantically trying to get the book done on time. I'm one of those authors that just I don't want to be that girl that has to, explain why I couldn't do my job and get the book in on time. So no. I usually write, I try for 10 pages, and that's a give or take 2,000 words. And if I'm closer to deadline, it'll be more up like 13 to 15 pages and about 2,500 words. And sometimes I'm writing 7 days a week. When things are going well, I love to at least take Sundays off, or just try and only write like maybe 5 pages. But I'm pretty diligent about that. When my kids were still home, gosh, they're both married now, so this was a while back. I used to write first thing in the morning, like 6:30. I'd be starting, and I seem to have gotten lazier as I've gotten older. So, I'll like do emails and stuff, and then be like, yeah, I guess I better write. And next thing I know, I'm at the grocery store, and then it's like 2 or 3 o'clock. I'm like, oh goodness. So, but no matter what, it gets done, and I'm glad about that. I have some really good critique partners, and one of them, she loves to procrastinate, and I don't know how she sleeps. So I'm like, what do you mean? What are you doing? You got this book due, and she's like, oh, I know it. I'll get it done. But she's a fantastic writer, and she can write in spurts. I unfortunately am not that gifted that way.
Now, I think it's less stressful to eat the elephant one bite at a time. Small portions.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Well, and I am not. I write, depending on the publisher. I write a pretty good synopsis, but sometimes I just don't have to. Like I may sell a series, and each book is just maybe 2 paragraphs about it, which is wonderful when you're trying to get a contract. But it's not so easy when you're sitting down trying to write 300, 400 pages, and you've got 2 paragraphs to go on. So sometimes I sit and just think, okay, wonder what everybody should be doing next, or I'll have to just stop and be like, okay, I better write a much better outline and add a lot more plot points. And every writer I talk to, they seem to have their own routine or not a routine, and it works for them. Yeah,
we're all wired differently, and for a lot of people, I think there's a combination of both. You plot to a certain point, and then you let your characters tell you where they're going, which sounds crazy to normal people, but your characters do kind of lead you in a different direction sometimes, and it's not creepy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the dream. At least it was for me when I used to dream about writing a book. I just thought it would be like the writers you see in the movies, you know, like I remember Kathleen Turner in Romancing the Stone, and she's just typing along on a typewriter, and all of a sudden, you know, she types the end, and it's the end, and she's just, you know, worn out and thrilled and crying and you know, calls her agent or editor or somebody, and off it's going to go. And I sometimes you just wish, gosh, I wish I was just going to in this writing frenzy and be done, and then it's done. But for me, I write, and then I'll rewrite it, and then maybe rewrite it again. So it's a process for sure.
The authors in movies, they never have edits. They never have, the editor's always like, oh, this is fantastic, blah, blah, blah. They never mention anything about edits. You know, it's just like, it's one and done.
Well, and maybe that's a good thing. You know, everyone's thinking we can just, you know, pop this stuff out and it's wonderful. Maybe everyone doesn't know just how much uncertainty and revision comes into a good book.
Yeah, the work involved in that. Now, is there a genre you've always secretly wanted to write in, but maybe think you can't?
You know, I admire historical mystery authors. I mean, my favorite author is Anne Perry. I like that Jacqueline Winspear. I mean, I just have a whole host of writers that I enjoy reading, and I'm just fascinated by the way they can just put so much history and research and then do all these fine plot points and red herrings and you name it. And so, yeah, I used to really wish I could be a mystery writer, and then I just decided, you know what, I just don't think that's the way my mind works. I'm not always great with details, and also I love when I do read a mystery. I don't sit and I don't critique it, or I don't think, oh, I wish I could do that. I just enjoy it. It's when I read a historical mystery, I don't think anything but I'm so excited I have this book to read. And I'm glad I still have that as a reader. This just fascination and love for the written word. And I just adore when a writer can do something and I don't have to wonder if I could do it too. I'm just glad that they can.
Do you get attached to your characters?
I do. I really do. And one example is Lincoln in Edgewater Road. When I just first thought of this hero, and yeah, he has a very much a checkered past, and he's kind of rough around the edges, and he's really not the usual type of hero I write. I was attached to him, and even in my editor, she wrote me back in the first round of revisions, and she was like, I don't know, Shelly. And I usually I'm a very good follow direction author. I'm like, okay, I'll change it. And I kind of fought for him, and I said, you know what, I know who this guy is, and I think I like him, and I think maybe readers are going to like him too. And I did calm him down a little bit, but you know, it was a little bit of like, you know, I like this guy and I'm attached to him, and my book wouldn't be the same if this character was different. And I was glad that they ended up just letting me leave him alone, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. Like you know, you kind of have to sort out, you know, don't sweat the small things that are changed, you know, and just fight for, you know, the things that are really important to you, to your story and your characters.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think that's part too of every author, you know, that it's something that you you love. You love when you love your book and you love your characters, and it doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes I'll finish a book and I'll think, you know what, I'm pleased with it. I think it's a good story. But there's, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But every once in a while you write a book and you're just like, wow, this one was pretty good. You know, I'm really proud of it. And so, and that's the kind of just, you love that sense of like, all right, I did a good job on this one. Sense of accomplishment.
Do you ever have a swoon moment, like when you've written like a romance, like a wedding or some kind of really romantic scene, and you think, oh, I just want to swoon?
I do. And I mean, I love that when I read it in someone else's book, but I really love it when I create it. And it's funny, you know, here we are, Linda, talking about, you know, revisions and so forth. It seems like moments like that, they just come. And you're just like, wow, this was the scene that I had imagined, and somehow I was able to get it on paper. And so that's a nice moment, and it's really nice when if my agent or my editor or a reader will write and be like, oh my gosh, I really like this hero or the heroine or this scene, and you almost want to say, I did too. Didn't always like chapter 5, but I did like this part. So.
And when it all turned out okay. I wasn't sure, but it did.
Right. You're exactly right.
Did you ever have a plot line that you kind of thought of, a plot for a book, just loosely, and thought, oh, there's no way I could sell an editor on this, or it's just not gonna, I just can't do it?
Oh, no, absolutely. I have kind of a cute story about that. So I think I was writing my maybe 4th series with Avon Inspire. I wrote a bunch of Amish books for them. And anyway, I got to meet with my editor up in San Francisco. So she took me to lunch, and we're chatting, and it was all good. And she's like, well, Shelly, what do you want to do for the next series? And I had gone down to Kentucky, to Crittenden County, which is in like the southwest portion of the state, and to research a new Amish community to me. And anyway, it's in Crittenden County, and I thought, this is it. And when we had gone out, it was raining, and I knew where I wanted it. And so anyway, I told the editor, I'm like, yeah, I want to start this new romance series, and with and the first scene in the first book, I want it to everyone finds a dead body in a well, and it's an Amish boy. And she just, I mean, you could have just heard a pin drop. She's like, what? It was almost like she wanted to just like, should we review, you are supposed to write Amish romances, not about boys in a well. But I talked to her about it. And she did give it a try, and then a lot of people, that was their favorite series, so I was glad about that.
See, now that's cool, because that's more like real life. It has elements of of mystery. Like, how did that happen? How did he get down there?
Right.
Yeah, it gives you something more to think about. And then to have
it certainly did.
Yeah.
Well, and it was fun for me. I'm notorious, for never being able to follow a good timeline, and I try. I mean, every chapter I'm like trying to write the date. I just to help the editor so she doesn't just pull her hair out. And these three books of this series, The Secrets of Crittenden County, each book took place over 2 weeks, and the book 2 started the day after book 1 ended. So there was a lot of timeline issues for multiple books, and I have a feeling once we finished all the revisions on the last book. I have a feeling everybody on that team over there at HarperCollins went out to go celebrate that we got through it. But it was fun. It was for me and a challenge, and I think, again, in any occupation, or especially in my writing occupation, it's nice to push yourself as a writer, and I think it keeps things fresh, and I can tell. I think that the reader can tell that the writer is still like stretching herself and trying to come up with something that they'll enjoy, and I think it shows on the page when you push yourself.
Do you find it hard to say goodbye to characters when you end a series? Like,
I do. Not all of them. There have been people that I've just been really glad that they are having a nice life and they can just go on and happily ever after world. But there have been. I wrote an Amish series set in Pinecraft, which is in Florida, and I love them. They were
Sherry
really
Gore?
happy books. That's where Sherry Gore is. Yeah. And now I guess she's in Pennsylvania, right? But she's wonderful. But anyway, I wrote those, and I wanted to continue on, and I did. I asked my editor, I said, everybody just comes in, all the Amish come in on these buses, I think I could write lots and lots of books. And they were like, no, you've written 3, that's enough. So it is. Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to either a setting or a group of characters, but I tell readers when you start a series, it's like people move in next door, and you're trying to get to know them, and then when it ends, they move away, and you get somebody else that comes in. So I guess that's the way to think about it.
And sometimes those characters are squatters. And you have to kick them out of your head.
That's right. I like that image. That's fun.
But that's a perfect segue, because we're about at the end now of our show, and I wanted to make sure that listeners can find you. Your website is ShelleyShepardGray.com. It's pretty simple.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as Shelley S. Gray. I'm on Twitter as Shelley Gray. So, yes, if readers are interested, I'd love to connect with them all through social media. It's so fun.
And the name, I'm going to spell your name out so they can find it, because there's so many ways to spell these names. Shelley, Shelley Shepard, Shepard, and Gray with an A.
Yes, Gray with an A.
So they can find you. And thank you. It's been delightful talking to you today. I really had a lot of fun.
Me too. I really appreciate you having me on it. I've been enjoying your podcast so much. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope we can chat again, whether it's on another podcast or at a conference sometime, or wherever.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we're ever all back in person, it would be great.
I know.
Can't wait.
We might be wearing hazmat suits, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, you have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much, and thank you, listeners. Hope you go and check out Shelley's books. Bye-bye now.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.